Cool. And we are recording. So should we just get into it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, awesome. All right. Suppose the first question I have for you is, how did you start in the industry, and what was your first experience with children's media?
So I started as work experience through the ABC's structured work experience program. I was studying Bachelor of Arts in Communications, majoring in social inquiry at UTS, and I met someone at uni who worked for Good Game. And they said that they got in through work experience. And I said, hey, that sounds pretty cool. I love video games and this sounds exciting. So I'm going to see if I can do work experience there. And I applied, got in, did that, then at the end of it said I would love to volunteer my time for 1 day a week and just kind of keep in contact and learn more about making TV. And they sort of said, if you want to work for free, we're not going to stop you. So I did that for a year and a half. And my first kind of contact was working on Good Game Spawn Point, which is Good Game's show for younger gamers with a core demographic of 8 to 12-year-olds, and working in a production assistant / production coordinator role.
Nice. Yeah. Did you have what got you interested in Good Game Spawn Point to start with?
I just loved video games, and I was at a point in kind of my life in uni where I was saying yes to everything, and I just wanted to get as much experience as I could and experience as many different things as I could. So when I started, I wasn't specifically looking to work in children's media, but I found that I really quickly fell in love with it because there's just so much magic in it. I think I've always been someone who has wanted to do what I can to encourage other people to be their best. And I think doing that in the context of children's media is really, really special because you're talking to people who are still just at the beginning of their lives, still really impressionable, and have the opportunity to really help direct where they're going for the rest of their lives, which is absolutely huge. And at the same time, working kind of in the games media side of it, often you're talking to audiences who might be a little more isolated, might have a little bit more limited social skills. And they can often find a lot of solace and community in these gaming spaces. So being able to take on the role of almost like a older sibling and sort of give them warmth and encouragement and say, hey, this thing that you love, it's really cool, and here are the ways that you can enjoy more of it and enjoy it in a way that's going to be a part of a more broad and fulfilling life, I think was really, really, really rewarding to me. And also, I'm silly, I'm a big kid, I love to have fun, so having the space to be silly, I think, is really special.
Yeah, that's like what I'm trying to achieve as well. Um, uh, like right now you moved out. You said that you moved out of kids media. Would you say there are any like major differences between how those two industries work, like just regular media and kids?
There are, but there aren't. I think, with kids media, you've got a lot of responsibility. I think, and I think some people do pay attention to that responsibility, and some don't. Um, but I think that when it boils down to it, like, you should take it very seriously because you're talking to impressionable young minds. So I think
Yeah.
that you need to come at it really mindfully and really carefully, that things that you can think are a bit throwaway actually matter. Um, I also think that there's just this beautiful optimism that you can come to for kids content because they're not jaded yet. Kids are still just enjoying stuff. They're not there yet with, their slightly bitter critical minds that we can sometimes get as we get older. So I think leaning into that joy and optimism is really, really lovely. Although that is something that I think I take to other areas of the media work that I do now. And I think that that's a real gift to be able to translate that to spaces that maybe have forgotten what it's like to feel joy. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, if you could, go back to yourself when you started, what is some advice you would give to yourself? And also, is there any advice that you would ignore?
Ooh. Okay, what advice would I give to myself? I mean, I'm not sure I would do a whole lot differently. Actually, this is maybe a little bit more personal and philosophical, but I think the advice I would give to myself is make more time for yourself. I really, really threw myself into work for more than a decade, and didn't necessarily take the best care of myself through that time.
Mm.
Was just so focused on like what the next thing was and working and the rest of it. So I think, yeah, just taking more time to be lazy and do things that are just personally enriching rather than furthering my career. Having said that, though, I'm so like I really value my career and I'm so delighted at where I've found myself that um, I'm also not sure I would even take that advice. Spoken like a true workaholic. And advice that I would ignore. Um, I think I wouldn't say that it was advice that I was ever given, but I think uh it can be quite a space where because everyone's trying to make something really good, they can sometimes lose sight of, I guess, like just relaxing a little bit. Like there can be this overly critical mindset that comes to the table as everyone's trying to tweak things to make it the best that it can be. And I think I would want to, maybe that would be advice that I'd give myself actually. Um but to step away from that overly critical mindset a little bit more and try to keep things lighter and more fun. So the advice that I would ignore maybe is something to the tune of everything needs to be the absolute best that it can be. I think maybe paying more attention to things being well rounded and fulfilling and yeah, taking care of people is maybe a bit more important than it technically being the best. Because I also find that when people are just on this like dogged pursuit of making the best thing or the thing that's going to get the most views or whatever, um, it can turn into this like slightly nasty fight around whose ideas are more correct.
Mm. I've definitely fallen into that social media pit trap before.
Yeah.
Yeah. So kind of like just don't put 100% into everything, but like kind of like divide it a bit so you don't
Yeah.
burn yourself out.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
and I think also if you're giving absolutely everything to like one project, if it doesn't perform how you wanted it to, it can be really disheartening. Or in making media, 99% of the time you're working in teams, and not having the flexibility to go, okay, my idea isn't what's going to go ahead this time, that's fine. Or yeah, just being too stuck in what it is that you think should happen can stop you from hearing other people's ideas. And whilst it is really, really annoying when you feel like you can see the way something should have been made and it doesn't get made that way and it doesn't go well or whatever, I think just being able to step back a bit more and saying, hey, it still has value. We still all learn something, and next time maybe we can tweak things again. But yeah, not getting too bogged down in perfectionism.
yeah, the flow of a awkward creative space. Um, were there any unexpected challenges that you found when working with ABC3 or like in that general setting?
um Unexpected challenges. I mean, I guess I went into it without any expectations, so every challenge was unexpected in its own way. I think the AVC has a really interesting culture, um, which I say knowing full well that I've not really ever worked anywhere else. I've done ABC for over a decade, and then I've done freelance bits and pieces elsewhere, which is not the same as being like embedded in a corporation. But the ABC is also kind of notorious for being a little bit strange. They do things quite differently, for better and worse. So I think that's quite a bit of getting used to, and it sort of gives you a weird a weird idea of like how the world works or how employment works. Um, I would say that getting used to a corporate structure is an adjustment, because when I started working there, it felt a lot looser. The team had a lot more autonomy because our executive producer essentially had the clout to be able to be like, this is my team. They're doing what I want. And she sort of insulated us from the wider corporation. And when she left the show, there was a lot more kind of communication with different departments and stakeholders in what we were making. And that was a real shift. And it felt very strange because before it was like, wait, we were kind of allowed to do whatever we wanted. We just made whatever we thought was good. And now we have all these other people that we don't know coming in, having meetings, being like, do it like this, do it like this. So I guess that was the biggest challenge, just kind of navigating working in a structure that's larger than yourself or your team.
Nice. Um, yeah, I did also notice in some research that like you branched down to different like sections like podcasting, music. Do you reckon you like, have? Oh, sorry, the question was very written weirdly. Uh, yeah. Do you have like what would you say like are your reflections on these from like where you began, or like did
Uh,
you expect to be?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I have always just gone with the opportunities that are in front of me. I take a real approach of giving everything that I can to what's available to me. I think for a while I was younger, I used to try to create the opportunities that I wanted. And it felt like a lot of energy for not necessarily a lot of payoff. It's that kind of thing, right? Where the rock star dream. There's everyone wants to be a rock star. Everyone wants to be like famous or whatever. But the reality is there's very, very few people who are cut out for it, that are going to have the opportunities, that are going to have the luck, that are going to have the skills they need at the right time. Like there's just so many factors that have to coalesce exactly right for someone to be able to find themselves in that position. And it's not just based on hard work. So I kind of like had this shift in my mindset where I said, I have a lot of skills, I have a lot of interests and passions, and I'm going to focus on taking the opportunities that are in front of me, whether I feel quite ready for them or not, grow that way and see where that takes me. And thankfully, that has been really, really successful for me. But I think that has what is a lot of what has led me to do such a diverse kind of slate of work. I've been really, really blessed and lucky that I've had quite a lot of people and companies and whatever approach me and say, hey, do you want to do this with us? And I've just simply said yes, basically every time. I don't think there's anything that I've said no to other than like extremely branded deals that I wasn't allowed to do while I was with the ABC kind of thing. Um, or things that they were asking me to do for free that took a lot of time. I was like, sorry, I can't give my time to that. But I've always had a massive heart for kids TV. I think it's really, really special to me. And even though I haven't done it for a while now, I think there's so many aspects of kind of my personality or being or self that I still really identify as being like a kids presenter. Like even my wardrobe, a lot of the stuff that I wear I think is a little bit outrageous and sort of the type of thing that you would expect a kids presenter to wear. And I think that that's something that I probably will hold with me for a very, very long time, because I think that it's something very, very special. So even though I'm doing all of these different projects, and a lot of them very much are not for kids, I still think that there is this core and heart of that playfulness and energy and excitement that I still bring to basically everything that I do.
Do you reckon you'd take another shot at kids media then?
Well, as I said, I say yes to basically every opportunity. So if the opportunity arose, I definitely would. Kids media is this weird space as well, where presenters kind of often fit into two categories. You're either the older sibling, which means often you're like in your 20s, and you have that sort of like cool aspirational older sibling vibe, or you're a little bit more towards the like grandparent side, so you're like older, a little bit wiser, and you can see, and like it's not entirely that, but that is kind of the two main categories that there's work, I suppose. Or you're on Play School, which is very different again because they're all actors. And I am not an actor. Although I have an acting job coming up. It's my first acting job ever.
Cool.
We'll see how I go, but inherently it's not. I'm much more of a presenter than I am actor. So I kind of have quite a realistic view that there's not necessarily space in particularly the Australian landscape for me to just jump into another kids presenting role. But if the opportunity arose, I would absolutely take it because I love it so much.
Yeah. Also, last question. I need to learn how to read again. All right, there we go. Are there any other areas or like media formats that you want to branch out into, or do you have any future goals that you
Oh my
intending to reach?
gosh, I want to do everything and anything. I would really love to do a little bit more just kind of variety, silly, fun stuff. So like those a lot of them are really awful, but those like fun panel shows that are just kind of comedy and fun. Like we don't have that many in Australia, but if you think of like the huge slate of shows that they have in the UK, that mix that kind of intelligence and comedy side of things, I would love to do things like that, or even like Spicks and Specs here in Australia. Uh, some more acting could be fun. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Um, what else? I'd really love to do more documentary. I've got such a heart for learning. I love talking to people. And I think that I have a real skill in being able to digest information and then relay it for a more general audience. And so that's a skill that I would really love to put to use, getting to talk to incredible people and learn things about the world. And I've been really, really lucky to be able to do some of that already. But I think if I was going to pick one, I think documentary would be my number one thing.
Yeah. Well, um, awesome. Like that's just like really cool because like I kind of like feel like the same way and like I want to just do everything, but
Yeah.
yeah. Actually, do you reckon that you'd ever make a game?
No, well, I don't reckon so because it is a bloody hard undertaking. There's so much to it. I'm friends with a lot of indie game devs, and the amount of work that they put in, often for not that much payoff, is quite extraordinary. And they are just like incredible artists and creatives, and I love what they do. But I think for me, not already having any of the skills to do it, so I'd be starting from scratch, um, to make something that I feel like no one would want to play. It just seems like too much work for me. So I do love a lot of creative stuff. Like if I was to go into any creative endeavors, I really like fixing up furniture / doing woodwork. I want to start doing more pottery. I've done a tiny bit in my lifetime, and I'd
Yeah.
love to do more. And also just like painting and
Mm.
things like that. So yeah. Making games hard, man. It's not just the art, it's like the programming and then the story and the animation. It's too much.
Yeah.
I know how to stay in my lane.
Awesome. Well, that's all I got for you. Thank you for again, like, coming to the call. It was very nice of you. You were
No,
also like
absolutely.
the best person I could have contacted because like you responded instantly. I was so surprised. I was like, oh, what? It's crazy.
No,
Thank
no,
you.
it's my pleasure. It's always like an honor to be asked to share with anyone about anything, really. So yeah, thank you for asking me. I'm so sorry again that I was late. I was
It's
like,
all good.
I got the notification that it was in 15 minutes, and I was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then I just was caught into work and didn't pay attention to the time. So I apologize.
That's all good. Looks like we didn't need the full hour, so that's great. Because I don't want to take up too much of your time.
You're all
Well,
good.
okay. Well, thanks again for chatting. I think we'll leave it there.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll see you later.
Yeah. Best of luck with the project and lovely meeting you.
Thank you. All
Bye.
right. I'll end the meeting.